This podcast may contain adult themes and strong language.
You stepped onto Busker's Corner.
My name is Anthony Carson. I'm an artist, illustrator, musician, just all around creative dude. Most of my street performance has been doing custom drawings for people on the spot, on the streets. It's also evolved into doing illustrated poems, illustrated poetry for people. I've got a typewriter, and I started to bang out little poems and illustrate them. Aside from that, I'm also a musician. I've done busking with my guitar before as well, but I'm a quiet singer, so that never really panned out.
Hello, I'm your host Robert. We'll hear the rest of this story, as well as stories from other performers in this episode of Busker's Corner podcast called Moments of Certainty.
Greetings, your co-host Fable here, and like Robert just said, this episode is all about moments of certainty, meaning those brief periods of time where doubt just no longer exists. We'll hear 3 stories from 3 fabulous performers, all about those occasions where it became abundantly clear to them that they were on the right track as artists.
Our first storyteller this episode is a multi-talented artist and musician currently living and working in Erie, Pennsylvania. Although you will be hearing his original music playing behind him, this story is about drawing pictures for people out in the street. Please welcome Anthony Carson, aka Drawings by Request, in a story called Piece of the Moment.
If I was to pop my eyeballs out of my own head and walk upon myself, I think I'd see some goofy, shifty, smiling character, sitting at a table who doesn't ask me for anything, but I want to talk to him, and I don't, it's like I got to work up the courage to ask, to see what he's about. Probably looking the way I do right now, where I'm looking in all different directions. I'm feeling the wind. I'm not attached to anything. I'm not attached to this person walking up. If they want, they'll show up. I sit there with my flowery shirt or a shirt covered in fruit, and maybe sometimes some rose-colored glasses, and just kind of lean into life and the flow. What is fulfilling for me in going out and doing the work that I do is the moments when somebody receives a drawing or a poem that I've made, and it's like a blessing on their day. occurs in many ways. You know, it can be as simple as just a kid wanting to see something goofy that he thought of, drawing on paper and kind of smiling about it. You know, maybe whatever I created, drew, or wrote into the poem spoke to something else that they're going through. And they're like, oh, how could you know? And it moves them. It gives them something to move forward from something that perhaps they were stuck on. Those are really meaningful, powerful moments that I cherish. Yeah, I put out some signs. They're ever-changing, but the sign that I used to use that was most prominent, one that just said, "You dream it, I'll draw it." And that one, really flew for people. As time's gone on, it became less true. I didn't want to draw people's portraits anymore, so usually that's what they were dreaming, is of themselves. And I just didn't feel like it would be honest for me to have that sign out if I was going to tell them no. I do have signs that, just say on the spot drawings and poems.
How do you perch upon the seat of your discomforts?
And then I just kind of embrace. Sometimes I'm not in the mood to do people's portraits. I'm down to draw their dogs, but people are too insecure for portraits.
How can you sleep?
It's something that I've kind of experienced. Well, it's not that everybody is, but I think it's just been the case that when I turn over a drawing, it's never what they expect. I think they expect a typical cartoon caricature where your main facial features are blown way out of proportion, and I'm not that kind of artist. I'm just kind of an impressionist or surrealist or something. I just splash a couple of ink lines and smush some color in there, and it's a piece of the moment more than a cartoon caricature. And that's what people often seem to want more than anything. I don't do that.
Without a friend in the sky.
There have been times where someone, usually inebriated to some degree, would say, "If you make this a really good poem, I'll give you this 50. There are many of those kinds of moments where it's like, if you make me laugh, I'm gonna give you this big $1 bill here, street boy. And with some, I don't know if the right word would be trepidation, but I would accept. Of course, the challenge was on. I mean, there are times when, they weren't impressed. They weren't impressed. I mean, they gave me something else.
From the exit.
I was like, well, it was actually just recently. I went to this rib fest. It was a big barbecue rib fest that they had downtown here a week and a half ago. And again, there was a guy who was like, "I want you to draw me and my wife." He was like, "I got 5 for it, but if it's good, I'll give you more." And so I made, the usual illustration, and I thought it was good. I got his face and his energy right. Her face was, I could have maybe gotten it better, but they were just they were on a little piece of paper like this, just little scribbles, and it was no. And I spent a while. I was like, this is going to be good. He's going to love it. They're going to love it. Wasn't the case. And all I got was 5 out of it,
It's a dying art. It's a dying art.
I think there's maybe one other thing I'd like to say. This is something that has become a little more present to me lately, and it's not necessarily heckling. I don't think people recognize the implication when they ask. But when someone asks, "What do you do for a living? What's your real job?" what do you really do? How do you make money? How do you make a living when you're sitting there doing the work? There are times when that would have made me question, like, what is it that what is it that I'm doing for money? What should I be doing? What am I doing wrong here? Am I wasting my time? Am I wasting my life? When I can think about that moment where I'm steeped in that thought, living in those questions and feeling uncertain about my choices in life. I can compare that right to the moment of certainty where I'm getting my things together and I'm heading out the door because I believe in creating something beautiful, even if it's just for a moment.
All right, thank you, Anthony Carson, for the story and the music. I also get tripped up by asking myself those questions, but there never seems to be a real answer anyway.
Please remember, you can find links to Anthony Carson and his awesome artwork, as well as links to all of our other wonderful guests on Busker's Corner in our show notes. Now, let's get back to those moments of certainty.
Our next storyteller on Busker's Corner is an incredible performer who sings like a siren, writes her own songs, and plays many instruments. Originally from Detroit, Michigan, but currently living in Santa Fe and sometimes Texas, she is a social activist, nature enthusiast, photographer, and music teacher. Please welcome Stephanie Hatfield and her original music recordings in a story we call Branching Out.
My name is Stephanie Hatfield, and I'm a musician and teacher here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Originally from the Detroit area, I play multiple instruments. I write music, I record, and I also teach voice, guitar, recently bass, little piano, whatever they want to learn. Knowing that I was coming on this podcast, I was thinking about this yesterday and thinking I've never actually busked before. I guess I've always just had a venue to do it at and thought that that's where I should do it. But now I'm starting to think that maybe busking would be so much more fun than I had ever really given it credit for. Right? There seems to be such a freeness in being able to set up wherever you want. Well, within limits, I know, but set up wherever you want and just play for as long as you want and what you want. I feel like a lot of times when I've played in bars or breweries or festivals and stages, I have to perform to what the audience expects to a certain degree. And that can really inhibit what I actually feel like playing. Like I said, I was thinking about busking and thinking, gosh, that has to be such a beautiful feeling, just to play what you want when you want to, regardless if it's fast or slow or a cover or not. I remember thinking about what I wanted to study in college because I knew I wanted to go to college. And what did I want to study? And I was thinking, oh, maybe I should go into advertising or accounting. And my mother said, well, what? You have always loved music. Why would you ever decide to try to do something else in college is pretty much the opposite of advice as most parents, I think, give. So good on mom for supporting that. Both my parents have always been incredibly supportive of my music. Practiced mostly classical voice throughout my teen years, and throughout college I studied classical voice performance at Michigan State University.
Those eyes are blue, many miles I drive, looking for something in this desert that's alive.
And it's where I fell in love with jazz, actually. Never really had any exposure to jazz prior to that. My parents really exclusively listened to classical music and very obscure folk. But when I got to college, I discovered jazz and started singing in a jazz band. And my teacher, voice instructor at the time, if she could have forbidden me from singing jazz, she would have. She thought it was going to ruin my voice. So that pretty much made me more determined than ever to explore different kinds of music. So that's what I did as soon as I got to New Mexico after college. I started performing nightly at a restaurant which did mostly Broadway tunes. Kind of crazy that we were waiters, and then we would get up and take a break and sing. We had this big grand piano in the middle of the room, and they would play your song and get up and perform. And I got such incredible performance experience. It was in the middle of dinner rush, and you just had to drop everything, get up there, and put on your character and perform. So yes, we still got paid $2.17 an hour, just like any other server, even though you had to audition to get a job there. But we did get better tips, I think, overall, because they had a big tip jug on the piano, and so we definitely, I think, made out a little better than you would at a normal restaurant. So this place does still exist in Santa Fe. It's called La Casa Cena. The main restaurant portion is a very fine dining restaurant with an incredible patio in this old historic compound. And one of the sections of it is called the Cantina. It's all based around the experience of performers getting up and singing, every couple of minutes or so. I had a repertoire of music that I compiled and put together for the restaurant. And so it was your choice to some degree, but that there are songs that people always want to hear. Like, I sang a lot of Phantom of the Opera. A lot. And I sang Memory from Cats probably, I'm not kidding, probably more than 600 times. I mean, so many times. You could not get away with a night at the restaurant and not sing that song. It's so much so that I think now when it comes to it, it's blocked. No more Cats. So mostly I tried to find some more obscure pieces because I'm not so into the older, I guess, Broadway. Some of the new shows now are really brilliant. The stuff back then, like Rent, was the coolest thing we had going on. The other stuff, not so much. So I tried to find obscure pieces, and then I would throw in one opera aria. There's behind the scenes, there's an alley beside where we had to utilize that if we did full productions. Well, we do mini productions of entire Broadway shows, like Evita or what other ones? Chicago. I was the lead in Chicago. And so we would literally go back into the alley, totally exposed, and change. Like we would just, rip off our clothes and put the next thing on. And I don't know how many tourists would, sometimes be walking by and just see us in our underwear, change it into our costumes. And in theater in general, whether it's Broadway or just straight theater, you just get this comfort level with what other people might find really uncomfortable. So you're just like, yeah, whatever. There's no modesty here. The payoff, I don't know, was directly related to how well we did. I suppose it was more directly related to how well we connected with our audience. I do remember singing O mio babbino caro, and it was from the opera Gianni Schicchi. And it's got these really beautiful high notes. And it's a song that's pleading with her father to let her marry the love of her life. And I sang this song, and I dim the lights when you sing, and it's very dramatic. In the middle of my song, it still gives me chill bumps to think about it. In the middle of my song, a man who was at a table right in front of me took his hat off and put it on the ground in front of me. And I thought, wow, I don't know, I was so moved because he was so moved. Everything that was so powerful to me about music and why I do what I did, he felt it. And that's the reason I do it. If I can make that connection with a human, and if they can feel something powerful out of it, that's better than flying in my dreams. That's everything for me. So that was a really great experience. And it was great. It was such a good experience. I did that for 3 years, and then I think that's what I did after college and how I started to branch out into other music.
Thank you, Stephanie Hatfield. You are truly amazing and remarkable. I don't think anyone will ever put their head at my feet for singing, that's for sure. Our last story is from a multi-returning guest because we at Half-A-Shipwreck Productions love him just that much. You'll recognize the familiar music of his band, the Speakeasy Jazz Cats, playing under him. But his other busking hustle is slinging poetry with an old typewriter. Please remember, this podcast, as well as this guest, use adult language now and then. Here's the Viper King, Dusty DeLeo, in a story we call The Trade Element.
I like the art of the hustle. I'm used to the art of the hustle. Imagine, if you will, you're walking up a street and you see a bunch of cats with hats and typewriters. Fancy cats with rings and shiny things. And they might be singing songs, old jazz. You might smell some incense, some candles, and they're telling you, poetry. Poetry. Do you like poetry? Would you like a poem? Poem, any topic, any price. Poetry, folks. Come one, come all. Poetry for your sweetheart, your mother, your friends in jail. Poetry for your grandma. Get you out of trouble with your grandma. Get you out of trouble with your sweetheart. Tell your sweetheart to fuck off. Poetry. And shock people. Led Zeppelin tickets. Poetry. They don't know what the fuck. You're just yelling at people, and they get them interested. Tarot, spells, incantations, There's nothing like that sound. Click-clack, click-clack, ding, ding, click-clack, ding, click-clack, ding. It's so cool. You get a bunch of typewriters together. Just monstrous sound. It's so cool. It's so thunderous. And you're just seeing these fucking shit show poets who are just complete shit shows and wild. We're just offering poems for any topic, any price. So you pick a topic, we type a poem, and if you like it, you could donate whatever you want to. People give you anything, like the trade element. Crystals upon crazy amounts of drugs, upon crazy amounts of clothing, upon so many weird things. Other poems, drawings. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dates. Like, it's wild. You never know what's gonna happen. I'm like, what's in your pockets? And people frantically, so desperately want a poem that they'll search through everything and pull out whatever it is. They could give us a flower, they could give us a piece of gum, whatever. We just like the element of, like, if you don't got anything, just tell us a joke, like whatever, something clever. It's an interaction and it makes people's day. Oh, this is good.
Now I fit in a crooked step, walks along when a false holler, twirling his eyes and passes by. Yo, man of the mountain.
One time, this guy, he walks by, he had a nice shirt, and I was like, fuck, that's kind of a nice shirt. I like that shirt. We seem about the same size. Hey, I'll trade you a poem for your shirt. He just fucking takes it off right there. He's sweaty. It's fucking hot out. It was a sweaty shirt. And he just throws it at me. He's just bare-chested. I don't even know. I was kind of drunk that night, and I don't even know what he asked for the poem, but I wrote him this poem. And I was like, fair deal? You feel good about it? He's like, fuck yeah, man, I fucking love this poem. And he leaves. He comes back 20 minutes later with his friends. And he's like, bro, like, first off, I'm going to start with, I know that's your shirt now. And he's like, I love my poem, and I actually want to keep my poem. But how much could I buy this shirt back for? And like I said, I was kind of on one that night. And I like the art of the hustle. I'm used to the art of the hustle. I love the hustle of it all. It's fun and it's charming. So I'm going to start fucking high. And I could have started higher, and this guy would have said yes right off the bat. I said $50. And he's like, deal, instantly. And he pulls out $50 and he gives it to me. And his friends got super pissed. They're like, that's fucked up. Like, you're fucking ripping them off. And I was like, this is a fucking consensual transaction. When the ocean meets a sand. He's like, you have no idea. I love this. He's like, I'm fucking paying for the story of this right now. He's like, this is great. But his friends were super pissed off at me. But he loved it. He was happy. I love the hustle of it all. It's fun and it's charming.
Thanks again, Dusty DeLeo. It's always a pleasure to have you on Busker's Corner. I wonder what was so great about that shirt. But that's the stuff that makes street performance so much fun. That's all for this episode called Moments of Certainty. with a tale of questioning life's path and then rejecting the question. A tale of being certain in life's path and a tale of thriving in the hustle.
Join us next time for more true tales from the world of street performance.
But for now, you're stepping off of Busker's Corner.